Buongiorno a tutti, benvenuti all'APREdialogue sul Clean Transition Industrial Decarbonisation. Just a few words also for the speaker. Welcome and thank you for connecting today to this APREdialogue on Clean Transition Industrial Decarbonisation. I will briefly introduce this roundtable in Italian and then I will come back to the English. So, sorry. Sono Chiara Pocaterra, Capo Dipartimento Progetti APRE. Sono stata 15 anni punto di contatto nazionale sul tema energie ed Eurauto, ma anche coordinatore della rete degli NCP. Oggi insomma con molto piacere modero questa sessione dell'APREdialogue sulla Clean Transition e la Industrial Decarbonisation. L'introduzione che ci ha fatto la collega Miriam De Angelis sul contesto della finestra della Clean Transition e Industrial Decarbonisation credo che sia stata molto interessante ed è andata molto in profondità, quindi non mi sembra il caso di aggiungere ulteriori dettagli, ma vado direttamente a presentarvi i nostri relatori di oggi e riswitcho all'inglese per comodità di tutti quanti. Prima di tutto voglio ringraziare, thank you to Carsten Schierenbeck, Head of Unit Industrial Transformation in DG Research and Innovation of the European Commission. Thank you to Karsten Krause, Head of Sector, Innovation, Research, Digitalization, Competitiveness from DG Energy, from the European Commission. And thank you also to Alessandro Coppola, Director of the Directorate of Technology, Transfer and Innovation from ENEA, the National Agency for New Technologies and Sustainable Development. So the discussion today will be on the European Competitiveness Fund and the new Horizon Europe. This is a roundtable, so there will be an open discussion starting from some questions. And I really would like to start with Mr. Schierenbeck with a very direct to the point question. What is the contribution of your unit to the policy window, clean transition and industrial decarbonization?
Okay, first of all, thanks for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be with APRE today and to explain a little bit what we're doing. So for us, we are supporting basically the clean transition and industrial decarbonization, for instance, through one of our Clean Industrial Deal flagship calls. We have next year, 2026, 2027, a 600 million call to support basically fit for deployment projects. So here we try to push basically also here the agenda and the development of a new generation of cutting edge demonstrators in clean tech and energy intensive industries. So I think that's an important area. At the same time, we are also trying to simplify and accelerate investment in steel, for instance. We reform the research fund for coal and steel by the end of the year. And we are also trying there to put basically more funding on the table to align investment rate with Horizon to make it simpler for applicants. At the same time, we also need to look that within Europe, we also have the advanced manufacturing capacities. So there we also look at basically support collaborative research via the partnership for Made in Europe, for instance. We also have other partnerships, for instance, of the Clean Steel Partnership or the Process for Planet Partnership, where we also invest considerable funding to transform the process industries and to achieve circularity and climate neutrality by 2050. In addition, we're also looking at next year, we are developing an Advanced Materials Act. And there also, I think, advanced materials have a very transformative power in reducing, for instance, energy consumption, etc. If you think of coatings, solar panel, wind blades, etc. This is also very important. And at the same time, this year still, we're working on the safe and sustainable by design framework. That should also help, for instance, industry to explore a little bit more at an early stage how to deal with new substances, etc., to identify risk, the approaches to do with it in order to facilitate it also there, the time to market, which is very important. I mean, that's sort of a bit in the nutshell that our unit contributes to this agenda. Thank you.
Let's say, go to Mr. Krause with a question on the policy drivers that are guiding this path in the clean transition and industrial decarbonization in the European Competitiveness Fund.
Thank you for the question. And first of all, good afternoon to everybody. And thank you for inviting also DG Energy to this panel debate. On this file of competitiveness and research, we are closely cooperating with our colleagues in DG RTD, but across the Commission to develop a framework that incentivizes competitiveness and also research. Maybe the big policy driver, and I think you've heard it already over the last days, and the wake-up call came from Professor Mario Draghi when he underlined the challenges for the EU competitiveness. These overall challenges have been, and there was this important statement that concerns us in DG Energy quite a lot, is that the European industry is facing 2 to 3 times as expensive, as high energy prices as our international competitors. And for the energy intensive industry, but also for across the industry, for data centers, but also for citizens, high energy prices are a problem. So to bring them down is maybe one of the key priorities that Professor Draghi lined to, but this challenge is not on the expense of closing the innovation gaps to have a more competitiveness economy, but also on the decarbonization targets the Commission and the EU is internationally committed to. So in this framework, we see that the European competitiveness compass that have been published in early this year in response to the Draghi report outlines the policy drivers that have been also transferred into the European Competitiveness Fund. So there are overall, this closing the innovation gap is an important element that my colleague from DG RTD already outlined what we do in the area. We have the decarbonization challenge that is beyond funding. You also have the ETS, the European Emission Trading System as a backbone of climate policy, but also how it is applied to industry as an element. And we also look increasingly on international dependencies and to make sure that we are also strengthening manufacturing. So there's overall quite a broad set of policy drivers that will guide the European Competitiveness Fund. But this guidance will not be stable for the whole future MFF. I think one of the things we learn on the competitiveness and industrial debate is that we need to be fast, and that we also need to work together between member states, industry, and the Commission to address competitiveness challenges. So there's, I think, under the overall guidance, some of the more concrete guidance will develop over the years according to needs of the industry and the society. Thank you.
The key word for the next financial framework is the competitiveness. But making, let's say, a step in the national context, I go to Mr. Coppola, working in ENEA, as I said, and so I would like to know what is your experience in bringing key exploitable results from the research projects to the market. Or do you have also some concrete suggestions to overcome the barriers?
So first of all, thank you so much for the invitation today. I'm very glad to have the possibility to give my 2 cents of knowledge, to bring this knowledge to the discussion. So let's say that ENEA is particularly sensitive to this question because as a research agency, we are very close to industrial needs. So we develop base research, but with the target to transfer the results of this research to the industry and to the enterprises. So the question is strictly related to the technology transfer process. And we have seen and we see currently that a lot of innovation that could be produced by the research activity don't arrive to the industry because there is the so-called death valley of innovation that is around TRL 5. This death valley means that the innovation is not adopted by the industry and at the end cannot produce the results on which we have invested from a research standpoint. A lot of the time I hear that the problem is, a lot of persons think that the problem is just financial. So the problem of the transition above TRL 7 is just because of lack of money. I don't think that this is the real problem. If we are missing money, it's not because we don't have at worldwide level investors. Okay, there are thousands of investors that are looking for innovation to be funded and where invested. The problem is the risk mitigation of this kind of investment. And so there is a problem of risk, not a problem of money. The problem of money is a second tier as a problem. And to explain me better and try to give some advice, let me use an example. A technology transfer is like a relay race in which you have 2 runners. There is the first runner that is the researcher, the second runner that are the enterprises and the industry. And there is a public around that are the investors, and the owner of the field that are the institutions. Okay, so the problem is to have fast runners. Okay, the first one that is fast, the second one that is fast. But the problem, the issue is when the first runner gives the baton to the second runner. If there is a misalignment between the 2 runners, okay, if there is a cultural misalignment, if they have different needs, okay, if they have different vision about what does it mean innovation, okay, the risk is to have a wrong passage of the baton. And considering that investors, so the public, like to bet on winners, okay, if a baton falls down, okay, you miss the opportunity. So it's very important to create a continuity between the research and the enterprises that should, let's say, catch the baton. Of course, the investors are more, let's say, interested in investing in the second phase. So when you have an acceleration of a TRL above 5. So this is very important. Why it's very important to have framework programs like the European Commission framework in order to fund what is below TRL 5. But it's very important to fund this development at low TRL in the perspective to create the precondition to, let's say, facilitate the investment in the second phase. Okay, so I think that the problem is the misalignment and to create this kind of continuity. So be brief because we have just a few minutes. If I have to give some suggestion about the first phase, that is in any case prodromic to the baton passage, okay, we need to attract good runners, okay, so good projects, good research and innovation initiative. And so we need to have simple and standardized rule of participation, clear and effective communication of financial tool available, reduced and focused number of participants to the partnership, well-balanced participation between academies, research and development infrastructure, small, medium enterprises, large enterprises, simplify rules for cost payments and reimbursement, and lean bureaucracy. Okay, all these things come even from my personal experience. I've worked on projects between FP4 and FP7. So probably the Stone Age, considering FP10 now. But for instance, when I used to come to Brussels, I used always to see from Italy at least, always the same faces, always the same large enterprises, very few small medium enterprises because of the difficulty to participate, difficult to understand the tools and so on. So I think that it's very important then to invest in this standardization and effectiveness of the schemes. I think that the European Commission has made a very huge job in this sense with FP10, as far as I read. We have been even involved as ENEA in recent audits about, let's say, the way in which European Commission manages the past framework program. So I think that all the ingredients for being successful are present in this FP10 from this standpoint. Then I give some advice about the first phase. Then about the second phase. So after that, we have given the baton to the following runner. Okay, we needed to accompany the transition. So we needed to accompany with this passage with complementary acceleration tool in continuity with the first phase. We have to stimulate and support a new competencies capable to solve the cultural misalignment that is one of the key barriers of the technology transfer. So professionals that are capable to speak and catalyze different culture and needs and a structure dedicated to solve the misalignment. This is something that we are developing in ENEA, for instance. What I want to say is that typically research and development is organized in horizontal streams, while instead the industry and small medium enterprises are organized in vertical, so in B2B structures. So the difficulty is always to put together folks that think in terms of science and technology together with folks that think instead in sense of business needs, application, and the monetization of this kind of innovation. So we have created an internal structure that is inside my direction, that is mapping what we can propose in terms of innovation and technology, and we translate these assets in value proposition articulated by verticals. This is extremely powerful and effective because when we go as a research and development agency in front of enterprises, we can speak their language and we can propose a value proposition that is adaptable to their needs, considering their role, their business model inside the vertical to which they, let's say, belong. And so this is a very important thing to be structured and supported even, I think, from the European Commission, because it's important to have frameworks, it's important to focus the technologies to support the projects, but the development is made by persons, okay? It's made by persons that have to speak each other, and then we need to facilitate this alignment of different culture and different perspective. Other two things, okay, another thing is about the cycles. It's important to keep the programs flexible because in the past we had cycles for innovation that were longer than 10 years, 10, 20 years for industrial products. Now innovation cycle lasts not more than 4 or 5 years. This means that the framework program is longer than the typical cycle for new product introduction for goods and a couple of years for new services. So we need to keep the program flexible, and I see this kind of flexibility in new FP10, because otherwise the risk is to have a program that is carved in the stone and the industry that change the needs through the time. And so when you start with a funded project at a certain time, if you don't have any kind of flexibility, the risk is to not arrive at the end of the program or the project because the conditions around are changing. Okay, if there is no flexibility from European Commission in remodulate somehow the project, this is the risk. I've seen by person this kind of problem in the past. Last but not least, I like to see some project selection criteria related to commoditization resiliency. What I mean is that, okay, to focus the right areas of intervention, the technology from a general perspective, but then we have to evaluate specific projects. Projects should carry innovation and technology resilient to commoditization. What I mean? I mean that there are solutions and innovation that are paid for their weight, for the kilowatt peak, for the kilowatt hour, okay, and not for the cost of failure that they can eventually generate. Explain better. If you have a wellhead for subsea application, this kind of equipment, if fails, create an enormous cost of damages, okay? So this kind of technology is not paid because it's a commodity, but it's paid because of the added value to the value chain to which participate. So I think that it's very important to invest and to select in particular, in particular, projects and innovation that can be in the time commoditized, but are very resilient in the sense that the customers at the end prefer to purchase from Europe and from our countries because the products have, let's say, not just pricing criteria applicable, but additional value criteria to be adopted. So this is, in very brief, let's say that this kind of discussion will take a couple of hours, not a couple of minutes, okay? So.
I understand. Thank you, Mr. Coppola. But okay, thank you very much. For the next round, I need to keep the 5 minutes for question. But anyway, you put on the table a lot of very interesting, let's say, questions and suggestions. I have to make a step back and I go to Mr. Krause to ask about the European Competitiveness Fund, how will be managed the integration of other programs like, for instance, LIFE program, that is a very old program. Italian stakeholders are participating a lot in such a program, like also the energy efficiency part, part of the LIFE program. So the interest on this integration is very high. I leave you the floor.
Thank you for the question. First of all, my full support to Mr. Coppola and the points that he made, and just to take the example of the relay race that he used. That one of the ongoing challenges, since not only in the current discussions on the future MFF, but over the last year, is also to avoid any overlap between funding programs and to make sure that you really have a good transition phase along the process, so that one project is one program you can apply on a similar way, and you also have the good results from the research phase that could enter into a first of a kind or also into an application phase. And here with LIFE, we have an I wouldn't call it an old transition, but we have a good experience. I think it was introduced in 1992 initially as an environmental funding program. Then we had the climate mitigation adaptation topics added to it. And as a follow-up to the intelligent energy program, we also had the clean energy transition elements in the current LIFE. And this has been proven as quite a successful element. And also when you see that LIFE will be continued. It's mentioned in the documents that it and the role it can play for first of a kind applications, and also to help the uptake of research results and innovation, particularly on the energy efficiency side in local areas, working with citizens and players that are not always find it into the research programs. It plays an important element. Further on, also the recognition of the innovation fund is an important element to bring in more on the energy side and also on the climate side, bigger first of a kind parts. I think one of the overriding themes is to simplify, but also to integrate the rules and the governance more to ensure that we have, quoting again Mr. Coppola, this relay race where not only the the next runner is put into full speed, and that's a smooth transition, but also that the next runner really knows the rules of the game, and that and this is what the new MFF brings with the integration of different programs. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that my next question to Mr. Schierenbeck is going in this flow, because the question is about the benefit of having the New Horizon Europe deeply linked to the European Competitiveness Fund.
Yes, thanks. First, let me add, Mr. Krause has already highlighted sort of a bit that the MFF tries to go in this way. I think the important message there is that, I mean, the MFF was put on the table to simplify, to provide more flexibility, and to bring that competitiveness boost in the context and follow up to the Draghi report and the competitiveness compass and the Clean Industrial Deal, for instance. So I think this is very important. And I think also to follow up from Mr. Coppola's point, indeed, I think one of the reasons also to integrate FP10, basically Horizon Europe, in the European Competitiveness Funds is also to deliver a little bit on the requests by stakeholders to provide this more simpler structure and to be having support accompanying the whole project lifecycle from research innovation to deployment. And I think this is sort of a little bit the particular benefit I see, that there is a clear intention in the next MFF that we basically provide this comprehensive support throughout the whole project investment cycle. This means also that projects that are at different stages maybe can get engaged, and it's therefore fitting to the needs of our stakeholders. And as Mr. Krause said, that there is a unified rule book, that there are more simplified processes, that we also get the time basically from application to project, that we get that quicker, and that we build the linkages there. I mean, under FP10, under the Horizon Europe in the future, there is the pillar on competitiveness on society that will particularly target clean transition, industrial decarbonization, that will have digital leadership, but also cover resilience, defense, and space. So, I mean, there are also the clear linkages with competitiveness. And I hope in the basically application of those principles and the commitments that have been made, that we also make, therefore, the lives of applicants much easier. That is now the work that we have in the next months and years to do, so that the next phase will bring considerable benefits.
Thank you again. And maybe we can go to a next step that is more about the valorization of the research results and of the project in particular. But I would like to start with Mr. Coppola, that maybe will put on the table again some insights that could be useful also for the discussion and for the next questions. I know that you are in particular working on the measure on the impacts and try to boosting impacts. What are your ideas on how to strengthen the research project impact after the end of the project?
This is a nice question. Good question. So let's say that first of all, we need to differentiate between short-term impacts and long-term impacts. Okay, short terms, we can measure them by the patent that are issued and by the actual adoption of the results and patents by industry enterprises. Okay, this is the short term. Then there is a more long-term impact, that is the strategic advance in further research projects in critical areas. So let's say that we obtain today in terms of research result is useful even in terms of patents, strategic patents, to let's say preserve our interest in future developments. Okay. And let's say another long-term, let's say, index of impact is the development of innovation, as I said before, with high resiliency to commoditization. So let's say products, services, and innovation that can keep their value on the market despite the fact that there are many incumbents coming from other countries that have lower price of electricity, lower price for labor, and so on. And so in case of commoditization, they can be much more competitive than us, taking, let's say, our share in the market in an easy way. So let's say that in order to boost, let's say, both aspects, so the impact on long term and short term, let's say that I think it's very important to the acceleration phase that should come after TRL 5. So when we pass the baton, as we said before. And I think that, for instance, the role of the European Innovation Council is very important in boosting this passage. And as far as I've seen, as I read in the new FP10, the role of the European Innovation Council will be boosted. So I think that this is a very good news, and I think that it's very important in order to boost the impact of what we are developing from a research standpoint. Then another point, patents. This is a tough point. In Italy, patents are extremely expensive. Patenting activity is very important in order to have the results and to grant the monetization at a certain point of our results. Patents in Italy are very expensive. I don't know in the rest of Europe. Okay, I have the patent office that is inside my direction. It's a big part of my budget is spent on patents just to keep them alive or to extend them at a worldwide level. So I think that this would be very important to have something like an harmonization at European level. What are the procedures and the cost of making these patents, even considering the costs that you have in other countries at worldwide level. It's very difficult to protect our innovation and then to grant long-term impacts if we are not in condition to protect our innovation and the results of our research, European research institution. Again, keep flexibility. As I said before, there is the problem of industrial cycles, respect the funds and the framework of funding that are not covered in, shall not be covered in the stone. And as I said before, again, commoditization is the first enemy of the impact, in particular in the long term. Okay, if we invest in technologies and innovation, we need to be sure that we are not just tackling the right areas. Okay, decarbonization, materials, and so on, but then that our projects that can give implementation in industry that can keep the value through the time. Okay, so pay attention, because there are a lot of examples, even in renewable energy sources, for instance, in which we have made investment for subsidization, and then at the end, these investment have not created industry but just market, and then at the end of the subsidization, okay, the industry went away, and we have just the debt for covering the expenditure that we created. That's all. So this is my perspective. Thank you.
So thank you very much, Mr. Coppola. And I go back to Mr. Schierenbeck, because the Horizon Europe proposal ensures that research results will be translated in real-world applications. So it will be helpful, better valorization and dissemination of research results. So also in the context of what Mr. Coppola said, what are the measures that you are thinking about for valorization in particular?
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Coppola already pointed a little bit to two things. So, I mean, on the one side, we are continuing with the European Research Council to boost also excellence in science, but in particular, the European Innovation Council, I mean, will help to transform research into results into innovation. indeed, so that we get it to the market. And I think here, on the research side, the EIC proof of concept grants, on the EIC, the Pathfinder, and the EIC transition grants. I mean, these things are ones I think that have been very much being valued by stakeholders, and therefore this is something that we want to continue to boost, to help in this journey. But we also need to look a little bit at the other pillars. So for instance, in the Horizon Europe proposals, Pillar 3, we also have innovation, where I think we also need to make use of our innovation ecosystems, also at regional levels, etc., to use our stakeholders that can help us to share the good practices, to share and match demand and solutions, and to facilitate that innovation uptake across Europe's region. So I think we need to make use of the knowledge triangle. We need to make use out of our multipliers effectively. We need to use innovation, and that also means that we need sometimes stronger and updated advisory services for SMEs, for researchers, and business support in this respect. I think, for instance, very important at universities, etc., to have also institutionalized arrangements comes to IP arrangements. Sometimes that you use, let's say, competitions from businesses to ask for solutions, that then students at university together with excellent researchers find solutions, but that this is pre-arranged how to deal with IP that are being evolved, and also to bring this knowledge. There is, for instance, a 2022 council recommendation, for instance, also on knowledge, on guiding principle for knowledge valorization, that can be used also there to implement basically code of practices, etc., that can help in this respect. So I think this is something very important. We have also at the Commission level in September just published a European strategy for research and innovation infrastructure, because this is also something that is now as part of the Pillar 4 for the European research area. And I think there we need to also make better use of our capacities that we have, but help also with making better use of data, AI, and bringing there the connections between our centers of excellence at universities, for instance, and also in industry. And I think that we need to build the bridges effectively. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So now I go back to Mr. Krause, because the Draghi report sees also the contribution of Dr. Philippe Aghion, the recent Nobel Prize for Economics, and he was underlying how the innovative companies that want to scale up in Europe are not supported. So how will the European Competitiveness Fund intend to support the startup and the scale up?
Yes, thank you for the question. And I think already when the Draghi report was published, I think Carsten Schierenbeck and colleagues in DG RTD, but also we in DG ENEA looking after innovation have been thought it was a very positive thing that innovation was very strongly featured in the report, and it was underlined how important innovation is for competitiveness. I think that was a strong signal now when Philippe Aghion received it. I think our Commission President already underlined that how important his contribution was in the context of the Draghi report. What we learned out of the work of the Draghi report, but even before, I think also we listened well to we read well the books of Mariana Mazzucato about her entrepreneurial state. I think overall we learned that we live in innovative times, and that innovation is more than this creative destruction we had in mind. And once we have a good technology, it will be taken up by the market. I think Carsten Schierenbeck already talked about the European Innovation Council and all these attempts we make to lift technology also into the market, to create markets. the Enrico Letta report pointed already towards the second valley of death when it links to the fragmented capital markets we have inside the EU, and that only I think the global market for venture capital, 60% is US based. A lot of European companies are also going for the US to find in strategic investors, and only 8% can use the European market. And that's something that we've heard, that is foreseen. And here it's not only the European Competitiveness Fund, but also the work we do with the, for instance, the European Investment Bank is important to provide strategic investments into bankable projects to enable the scale-up phase. What we do, and I think this will also be strongly featured in the implementation of the European Competitiveness Fund, is to be flexible to support scale-ups and startups also in particular sector, because the sectors are quite different. We outlined from the EU strategic technology areas, and this and what happens inside the sectors, nothing that will be decided inside the Commission, but this is an ongoing dialogue we have with the research and academics, with the industry, and also with member states. One example is, for example, the work on the gigafactories, just to give you this one, the AI gigafactories, because a lot of these new companies need access to high capacity computing power to run AI, to work with AI and to establish this. Here we pooled funding across the EU, and there's something happening not in each member state, but to cooperate. Zooming more into the ECF, this more flexible approach would also help to complement industrial charters that have been developed. In the energy domain, we worked with the wind industry for the last years to develop a wind charter to outline the different challenges the sector has, and also to align support elements. Similar ideas are developed under the competitiveness coordination tool that is coming up. We work on, the Commission will publish soon an Industrial Acceleration Act that was announced by the Commission President in her State of the EU speech. So there are a lot of initiatives that come up, and the different funding windows under the European Competitiveness Fund will correspond also to this needs in a flexible manner along the regulation that has been proposed. Thank you.
Just to give a continuity, Mr. Krause. So the Competitiveness Fund underlines several times the importance of the skill development. Skills are also one of the 5 temporary task forces of the set plan. So the question is which measures are foreseen to enhance the acquisition, recognition, and retention, especially of skills across Europe. Maybe an example could be the Dr. Region that left Europe for United States, just because we talk about him. So how boosting the productivity growth also through these high quality jobs that we can create through the improvement of the skills.
That's I think we had last year, we had the European Year of Skills, and there's an ongoing work under the Union of Skills. We also established, I think the label is Blue Carpet, the idea of bringing back all the talents that has left to the EU, to bring it back and to also create conditions that make it attractive for scientists to come back to Europe. Or maybe even, and it's also an ongoing initiative, attract scientists that maybe find in the US not an as attractive work environment as they've found when they decided to resettle to the US. I think that's also something where there's a global competition for talents on the academic side, but skills are a bit wider, and we have to make sure that skills are not a bottleneck in any of the sectors. And we see that in the energy sector, we have we don't only lack academics, but also we lack a lot of trained experts on to work on the challenge, and we work on it to identify what the challenge are and also to develop training aspects. To give you two examples, you already highlighted the set plan, and this is for, I think most of you will know, but maybe if you allow me 2 sentences of advertisement for this important tool. It's a cooperation between member states and the Commission and industry to align research agendas in certain areas and to identify in different task forces what problems are. So for instance, we talked already about the access to market of innovative technologies, but also on skills. We work together to see where the needs are and also what training is needed. So that is a very important work that is ongoing under the set plan. Something that already materialized in the Commission is, for instance, in the context of the Net Zero Industry Act, where it's about regaining also manufacturing capacity for net zero technologies inside the EU. This element of net zero academies, where particular training courses are provided. Similar things happen for battery production, where we've already seen, and we can look into cases more particular, but the lack of skills are a competitiveness challenge, and therefore these academies are one approach to provide expert skills not only for academics but also for the workforce. So there's a lot of ongoing, and for the energy sector, the work of the Strategic Energy Technology Plan is also quite guiding. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I would like to understand from Mr. Coppola what are the competencies, so that from your point of view are missing in Italy to be competitive in bringing the research results to the market.
Okay, so let's say that in Italy we have for sure excellent researchers, university, academies, and so on. But there are, of course, gray areas of improvement. First of all, we need a more systemic view. I have really to thank Dr. Krause and Schierenbeck, because I've seen in the new FP and in the European Commission action, let's say, the interest in creating even a systemic view, not just tackling a specific area. Okay, so to see everything together, because this can give the results. So in Italy, a lot of time we miss the systemic view. You hear a lot of folks that are giving their solution for their segment, but without considering the impact from a systemic view, from a general perspective. And this is the good friend of teamwork capabilities, okay? Systemic view is something that we have to improve, but at the same time, even teamwork capabilities. I speak in particular for research and development activities. Results are produced by teamwork. There is not a Leonardo da Vinci in the middle of nothing that can solve big problems or that can tackle systemic challenges, okay? This is the first point. Second point, project management capabilities, okay? This is another point that is a gray area. We can have excellent scientists, academic folks, and so on, but to work together and give an impact working with enterprises, we need to achieve to develop project management capabilities. Today, a good researcher should even be at last aware of project management tools and methodologies if you want to work with the enterprises, okay? Otherwise, the risk of a cultural misalignment is certain, okay? It's not a risk, okay? You have folks that speak two different languages. At the end, it's impossible to create a convergence of needs. Another point is bureaucracy, okay? We need good bureaucracy. Bureaucracy is something that is needed, okay? It's the organization, but we need to have good bureaucracy. What does it mean, good bureaucracy? It means bureaucracy based on well-engineered procedures. not, let's say, a multi-layered praxis that are typically blur subjective with uncertain timelines and so on. As even Dr. Krause and Dr. Schierenbeck were saying before, small medium enterprises in particular needs to have certain timelines, needs to go faster, to achieve innovation faster. It's unuseful to have complex bureaucracy that takes 2 years, for instance, to create a partnership between public research and private enterprises, okay? This is a nonsense. 2 years, it's an age from an industrial perspective. You need to capture and transform your innovation in a fast way. Another point, again, for Italy, is digital competencies. Artificial intelligence is an ongoing project, is not a product, okay? It's something that is developing through the time, so it will create impacts on services, products, but even on business model of our small, medium enterprises and large enterprises, okay? So we need to have folks that are, let's say, developing in terms of digital competence, not just from a technical perspective, but even from a business perspective, because artificial intelligence can create productivity, can create new jobs, can create new opportunities. And to tackle and to capture these opportunities, being competitive with respect to the other competitors at worldwide level, we need to have this kind of training and competitors, considering even our, let's say, aging society. Okay, the average age in Italy is not so low, and the small medium enterprises a lot of time have a management that is aging, and so we need to consider even this aspect, the gap that we can let's say find into the real world, okay, in Italy, thinking about digital competencies and what is needed to be competitive for future time. So I think that this is in extreme brief what are the key points for Italy.
Thank you. So now
from my perspective, of course,
absolutely.
Things. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So now this is my last question, and this is for Mr. Schierenbeck, and I turn also to him the question about the skills and how to attract highly skilled and internationally connected researchers in Europe.
Okay, thank you very much. I mean, first of all, I think Horizon Europe is quite a brand and to attract talents. And that's why it was also good to see that it was still retained as a self-sustaining program while being integrated in the European Competitiveness Fund. So I think this is good. But indeed, there is a need to be at the forefront of the global race for talents. And I mean, that's the reason why also President von der Leyen have launched a Choose Europe initiative this summer. And I think there's one message that's very important, that is in Europe, we value very much open and free science. And this is, I think, something that should not be underestimated. And it's something that also, I think, we plan to legally enshrine as part of the European Research Area Act. In addition, there is, of course, the issue of finance. So we also need to look into how we can act as a global magnet for talents. So we've put on the table a new 500 million package to do that, to attract researchers globally. We are also doubling basically the with the support to researchers to relocate to Europe. And we have a new 7-year super grant under the European Research Council. But we're also looking particular at young scientists to see, can we provide, for instance, higher allowances as part of the Marie Curie Skłodowska actions, and longer contracts, which I think particular for young scientists is very important to have a bit the longer avenue there. And we need to see how we can fast track basically to the transition from the research results to innovation. And here we have put on the table the startup and scale up strategy in May. And we also are developing the European Innovation Act. I think that is also important to flag in this context. And finally, we need to look at how we can, I think, streamline on the one side the procedures a little bit for making the procedures easier to become researchers, but also to, I mean, sometimes break down a bit the boundaries between industry and research, because I think the more fluent this is, the more beneficial this is for both sides. That's sort of a bit, I think, the message that I want to give on this. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So this APREdialogue is going to close, but before I would like to, first of all, thank you, but also asking if you have one sentence, maximum two, to close this dialogue for all our followers, let's say, that have followed this session. Mr. Krause?
Well, that's a very difficult one to ask, and particularly as I'm the first one to respond. So maybe one element looking ahead. I think we are on a joint mission together to get a good European Competitiveness Fund and a good FP10 or Future Horizon Europe off the ground. The Commission made a proposal, and the next years will be full of a discussion to what should be rephrased, what should be in and out. So I think it's a joint interest that we get a good European program that is also strengthening the European integration, and it's also overcoming some, let's say, also national interests that are always there. And I think from speaking to the research and academic community, and also to a strong pro-innovation member state, I think we should maybe see this as a joint journey to defend and develop a good and even improve an already good proposal as a joint exercise. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Coppola, do you want to give your last...
I want to say that the new framework program is something that is extremely important, considering the opportunity for us in Europe to develop our European research area, so to work together. It's very important considering the geopolitical situation in which we are now. So we need to be much more competitive for future time. And I think that it's a quantum leap from a certain perspective respect to what I've seen before in terms of framework programs. So, of course, there is this view, more systemic, more, let's say, oriented to the competitiveness, to be fast, with standardized sets of rules and so on. So I think that it's a great opportunity for all of us. And we as a research center, but even industry, small enterprises and so on, so all the colleagues that are online that are looking to us, and so today, I think that it's important that all of us put some effort in diffusing this opportunity and explaining this FP10 even to other small medium enterprises and other, let's say, a reality that can capture this opportunity, making our Europe much more competitive. And thank you, and thanks to European Commission for this additional and new framework program. Absolutely, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Coppola. So I leave the floor also to Mr. Schierenbeck.
Yeah, I think one should always recognize that, I mean, the change to a new program means also change. So even if this is, we try to simplify, make it more flexible, better, but it's still a change for applicants. And in this respect, I think I can also encourage for applicants that are interested to make good use of events that are taking place, to meet other counterparts from other member states, to be able to form consortia, but also be informed about what's happening. And I think there are also national contact points like APRE will very much be up to date. So I think when we come closer to it, I think this exchange, this engagement in meeting people, actors, to build also good ideas for joint work across value chains, across sectors, to speed up innovation, I think will be very valuable. So that's a recommendation on my side. Thank you.
Thank you. So thank you very much for participating, for your availability. It was really useful and interesting. I hope that also our the followers that follow this session are happy about this dialogue. Torno un attimo all'italiano per ricordarvi che alle 14:30 ci sarà un apre-brief con Serena Borgna dove viene finanziata oggi la ricerca nelle aree Health, Biotech, Agriculture and Bioeconomy, e seguirà quindi alle 15 un APREdialogue su Health, Biotech, Agriculture e Bioeconomy moderato dalla collega Caterina Buonocore. Quindi con questo vi saluto e vi ringrazio per aver seguito il nostro APREdialogue.